Enter this year's Fanduel Bracket Pickem, which is an easier way to play than your traditional tournament and is completely free. If you sign up and register from the link fanduel.com/Envyerz, it supports your boy. All you have to do is pick 5 teams whose seeds add up to at least 20, and you get points from doing so. The further you advance with points, the more likely you are to win $20,000. Welcome to my 2017 NBA redraft. My name is Joshua Envyerz. I know the season isn't even over yet. These are my opinions on what player would go where if the draft were to start today. So with the first pick in the redraft, the Philadelphia 76ers would select Donovan Mitchell, who is by far one of the rookies in this year's draft that is outperforming what a lot of people expected him to be, and is most likely the favorite, at least in my opinion, to win Rookie of the Year this year. Obviously, besides Ben Simmons and Jayson Tatum, but let's not talk about Ben Simmons considering he wasn't drafted last year. Between Jayson Tatum and Donovan Mitchell is doing far more for the Utah Jazz than what Jayson Tatum is doing for the Celtics. And that's not to downgrade what Jayson Tatum is doing. He stepped up when Gordon Hayward went down. But Donovan Mitchell is replacing Gordon Hayward and replacing Rodney Hood and replacing George Hill. He's replacing a lot of firepower that Utah Jazz team once had last year. He also fits the mold of what the Philadelphia 76ers needed in that draft, and that's a guard. Lineup of Donovan Mitchell, JJ Redick, Robert Covington, and Ben Simmons handling the ball, and Joel Embiid is kind of crazy, and they'd win a few more games than what they are right now. Moving on to the Lakers pick, at number 2, I have them selecting Lauri Markkanen instead of Alonzo Ball, because if they were to draft Markkanen, they wouldn't have to trade their point guard of the future in D'Angelo Russell, and for better or worse, they'd have him on the team still, and they wouldn't have Brook Lopez. Unfortunately, they would have 2 of the worst contracts in the NBA, Timothy Mozgov and Luol Deng. And even more bad news for the Lakers, they wouldn't be able to draft Kyle Kuzma, because I have Kyle Kuzma going in the top 10, as crazy as that sounds. A lineup of Jordan Clarkson, D'Angelo Russell, Brandon Ingram, Julius Randle, and Lauri Markkanen, that's a solid 5. Mind you, they probably wouldn't be winning as many games as they have been this season, but who wouldn't want another nice draft pick to draft next year? That'd be pretty scary. But moving on to the 3rd overall draft pick, we have the first pick that remains the same. The Boston Celtics seem to be destined to have drafted Jayson Tatum. Not much really changes because it's the same exact draft pick, you know. They'd still probably be one of the best teams in the league today. Not much of a hypothetical really, but it could be, what if Gordon Hayward never got injured? I could probably see YouTubers doing that in the future if they aren't doing that already. You could easily have a lineup of Kyrie Irving, Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum, Gordon Hayward, and Al Horford, but you also have the negatives of maybe not being able to see what player Jayson Tatum was as fast as we did by throwing him into the fire like the Boston Celtics did once Gordon Hayward went down with injury. At number 4, we have the Phoenix Suns selecting Kyle Kuzma. He could play alongside Devin Booker, and I feel like he'd be more of a star with the Phoenix Suns just because of how bad they are compared to the Lakers. Or he could come off the bench behind guys like TJ Warren, Marquise Chris, and Dragon Bender. Those guys seem to be the future of the Phoenix Suns, at least the young core. And what's so special about Kyle Kuzma is that he could play the small forward spot or the power forward spot. So it gives the Suns more versatility on what kind of lineups they can play. So a lineup of Eric Bledsoe, who'd still be there, Devin Booker, TJ Warren, Kyle Kuzma, and Tyson Chandler, they'll probably win a few more games, but ultimately they still kind of suck this year. At number 5, I still have the Sacramento Kings drafting De'Aaron Fox. They need a point guard of the future, and I honestly feel like De'Aaron Fox and Buddy Hield, that's a perfect combo, at least to see where it ends up. Because they'd still sign George Hill in the offseason. They still sign Vince Carter, Zach Randolph. The only other option, if they wanted to say, hey, we signed George Hill to this 3-year contract, let's have George Hill be the starting point guard, and let's draft another position, a position that is hard to find in the NBA, a small forward, and let's draft Josh Jackson instead. I personally am either or for De'Aaron Fox and Josh Jackson being here, but Bogdanovich would still be coming over and playing this season, so he's looking like right now the small forward of the future. So it all works out in the end if they're still able to draft De'Aaron Fox, leaving De'Aaron Fox being the first official point guard to go in my redraft. With the 6th overall pick, I have the Orlando Magic selecting Josh Jackson, and since he fell to the 6th pick, the Magic are a perfect team for him, and by perfect I mean He's the best available player, right? Maybe that's not the Magic, something the Magic would do considering their prior draft picks. They don't necessarily draft best available. They draft, I don't know what goes on in the Magic GM's mind, but a lineup of Elfrid Payton, Evan Fournier, Josh Jackson, Aaron Gordon, and Vucevic, they'd still suck. They'd probably have an amazing first week like they did this season, and then they'd gradually fall off. Nobody knows what the Magic are doing. I feel like they're one of the weirdest teams in the league because they draft good players, but then they trade them, and then they sign good players, but then they trade them. I don't get it. At number 7, we have the Bulls drafting John Collins. Now, I'm not necessarily sure if John Collins is better right now than some of the guys underneath him that I have, but for what the Bulls need, the Bulls traded Jimmy Butler. They got Chris Dunn and Zach LaVine. They don't need any more guards considering they still have Jerry Grant. They have Cameron Payne in the boot. They didn't need another point guard. They kind of needed a small forward and a big. So why not pick John Collins, who's the best available player to fit their needs? He's the polar opposite of what Lauri Markkanen is, because Lauri Markkanen is a stretch big and John Collins is more of a traditional post up kind of big that doesn't shoot threes. So definitely the Bulls, I don't think they'd have as bright of a future if they weren't able to draft Lauri Markkanen. I think Lauri Markkanen is going to be a great player, and the Bulls got a good one. Don't get me wrong, John Collins is an amazing player as well, but I don't think his ceiling is as high. At number 8, I have the New York Knicks drafting Alonzo Ball, the best available player on the board still, and they needed a point guard. Instead of drafting Ntilikina, they draft Alonzo Ball. Who knows how LeVar Ball is going to be handling this situation with Lonzo not being on the Lakers, but in this weird scenario, Lonzo Ball is on the New York Knicks. A good replacement for Ntilikina on the Knicks, probably not the best defender compared to the projection that Ntilikina is showing out to be, but a better passer. He also has the size for a point guard. And once again in this redraft, the New York Knicks pass up on Dennis Smith, but don't worry, Dennis Smith, he's next. Speaking of Dennis Smith, the 9th overall pick in the NBA redraft, Dennis Smith Jr., the Dallas Mavericks still are able to pick him up. The Mavericks at this point need everything they got. They need a point guard, they need a shooting guard, they need a power forward once Dirk retires. They need all the positions, and even, I guess, small forward, even though if they have Harrison Barnes currently, but I don't feel like Harrison Barnes is their long-term option. They might most likely let him walk after his contract runs up, but who knows? They might re-sign him as well, considering who really wants to go play for the Dallas Mavericks. I mean, DeAndre Jordan might want to, but the Clippers might lock him in the room, or not anymore. They can't do that anymore since they're all gone. By drafting Dennis Smith, their projection would most likely be the same. So it kind of sucks seeing Dirk go out like this, but that's what happens when you blow up your championship team. Lastly, we're only going up to 10 here. You have the Blazers selecting Bam Adebayo out of Kentucky. I think Bam went to the Miami Heat at the 14th pick. Not entirely sure, but Bam had a crazy summer league, and I'm not really keeping up with much with what he's doing with the Miami Heat, but the Miami Heat are trying to make it into the playoffs currently. And right now, he's a better option for the Blazers than the rookie Zach Collins. Overall, first year, this draft pick doesn't change much for the Blazers. They'd still be finding their playoff stride with Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum carrying them. But let me know in the comments below your NBA 2017 redraft.
I ask myself what would RZA do? Seem like they chopping trees and killing killer bees. This shit is critical. As far as flow, I rap ahead and pick along. I ain't fucking with him, ain't no funny kicking. They get back on watching been the truth. Been the truth since I said that. And I find it's cool to my full length drop. Till then, go rewind this. Myquale.
On the wind like my guardian Leviosa.